Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. Today we are with Ryan Kelsey, and he's the VP of Business Development at CenterGrid. Ryan, tell us a little about yourself and the company.
It's good to be here. So the CenterGrid's a cloud service provider. We're in the Midwest. Actually have a facility here in Cincinnati, Ohio, is where my office is based. We also run a IT services business out of that. So anything end to end from data, data center and cloud hosting and disaster recovery type solutions, even some co-location mixed in there. Then we go down the stack and manage network, manage security, and then end user support. So a lot of our focus is in the private cloud space. So we compete quite a bit with big hyperscalers where we spend a lot of our time. I think a lot of times we like to think of ourselves as not just a boutique approach, but somewhat of a vigilante, if you will.
Very interesting. You guys are like the have everything, the one-stop shop, as we call it. Tell us a little about your role and exactly what you do at CenterGrid.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm responsible for all of our market strategy. I run our sales efforts and do a lot of branding and marketing. For me, I think what's really important is our not just our marketing, but our relationship in the community. So how we show up to events and how present we are live. Because I think what has been cool to go, going COVID, nobody really enjoyed that. But I think remote work gave us a sense of scale, gave us a lot of lives, which I think folks will appreciate. But I think what we've also lost is that touch. And I think at
Mhm,
CenterGrid, that's really a big part of our personality. We're very customer centric and we're very human centric. You'll find, like our help desk, we're not, I don't have any plans and sure to have a chat bot for customers to interact with. We
mhm,
want to speak and work with our agents. We want those folks to build relationships and we want them to be thought of as an extension of those IT teams. So it's not just on the help desk side, but at all points, we want people to feel like, hey, they can call Kyle or Brandon or anybody else on our team and feel like they know exactly who they're going to work with, and that they feel confident that those people know their business and are kind of ready and able on their beck and call whenever they're needed. So we're really proud about that. Um, I know, the MSP world and even the private cloud world, then I would like to say that we're a dime a dozen. So it's very
mhm,
relationship focused. And, you always have to, or you always hear people say, well, we're going to care more and we're going to give you white glove support. And I think it's really difficult in 26 to convey that. So I think sometimes you
mhm,
have to earn it. And so it is important to what we do, but I mean, the work has to speak for itself because you have to have your customers raving about you, and
mhm,
it's a highly competitive industry, and that's primarily where my focus is technology differentiators and core competencies are important, but I think the
mhm,
culture that we build and the way that we treat our clients has to speak for itself, and then it has to speak when we're not in the room. So
mhm.
that's kind of where my responsibilities lie, and that's where I spend most of my time.
Brilliant, 100%. I think, like, the best companies, they always have great client relations. And it's like there's it's like an extra acquisition channel when your clients love you so much because then they go ahead and they refer you to other people and they're like, "Ryan's done a tremendous job. Jack has done a tremendous job. Like, you guys have to work with them." What have you seen from your clients that is like, "Guys, like, this is like a secret acquisition channel." Like, have you gotten tons of referrals from your guys' work from keeping that channel of, like, they're not talking to chatbots, they're talking to real humans that are reliable, that are always there. What benefits have you seen from doing that? Then rather than some MSPs just going chatbot or outsourcing to, like, a Philippines guy to help with support tickets and whatnot?
Yeah, I think, and maybe this is a little bit of kumbaya, and
Mhm,
maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea, but to us, when we have clients that think of our humans that are answering the phones or answering emails or that they're interacting with day to day, and there's a core relationship that gets built there. Um, it makes customers stickier for us, but also, it gets us invested in the business. When you think about, hiring and building a culture, you're thinking of individual development, career pathing, and how do we get the best people in the right roles with company. But at the same
Mhm.
time, like, what are their intrinsic motivators? What drives those humans? And a lot of folks support roles, they're driven by their impact. And I think the more integrated they get with customers and the relationships that we build with those customers, the more that they feel like, hey, if there's a big win that they have, client of ours has in the news, and we see a
Mhm.
headline or a massive accomplishment or they win an award, there is some, maybe it's small, but there's some piece of pride that the team feels in saying like, hey, we play a role in that. If
Yeah.
it's an innovation or a technological achievement or some new breakthrough that maybe a biotech customer has, you know, maybe there was something that went into that where their IT folks were able to focus on product in the forward facing piece of their business instead of keeping their network up and running or making sure that
Mhm.
all the endpoints for their users were secure and protected from bad actors and those types of things. So we take a lot of pride in that, and I think having the people element alive in those relationships is just been really key for us. And for me, just to kind of go one step further, I think it does come from a culture that you build. And so I think
Mhm.
the items that we focus on most often, for in any situation and making decisions, take titles and authority out of it. We like our folks, even on the front lines that are individual contributors, to be leaders. And the way that we know that they can lead effectively, if we give them a code to follow. And there's three
Mhm.
big things in that code. And number one is to own your outcomes. A lot of times in support organizations, you find that people kind of run and hold your hand all the way to the end of their job description. And they like to say, okay, well, like, I'm not really supposed to do that. So, I can direct you to the next person.
Mhm.
Or, hey, there's some ambiguity in this email, but I'm sure that they understand what I said instead of, making damn sure they know exactly what's required of them, what we're going to do. Everybody's on the same page. We all know what it looks like when we see it. And in order to work in this company, you have to be able to own your outcomes so that you're delivering high quality experiences for customers, but you're also accountable and also autonomous. So I don't have to babysit you within the organization day to day. So that's number one. That's really
Mhm.
big. Number two is moving with urgency. You get a last minute request that comes in at 4:59 on a Friday. You're like, I can leave that till Monday.
Mhm.
Or, client calls at, right before lunch and you're like, well, I have a lunch meeting and I'm about to walk in 10 minutes. What we would prefer to do is to call that client immediately and say, "Hey, you know, if it's an emergency, I can get you to somebody quickly. I'm walking into a lunch meeting. If it can wait 1 hour, I'll call you right afterwards and we'll track this down right after my next meeting." So that kind of like bridges one and two outcomes, but moving with urgency. We don't want to sit too long. I think we want to make decisions quickly. We want to get
Mhm.
people in the right places as fast as possible. So that and two, own your outcomes, move with urgency. Number three, ties it all together. Build community wherever you go. And so what that means is, I think what's the old adage that I love? A lot of people say it, but hey, you treat the CEO the same as you treat the janitor. And
Mhm.
and I think about that all the time wherever I go. If it's the person working the front desk at our office or at a customer's office, I'm having a conversation. I am seeing that person and I'm valuing their existence. I,
Mhm.
I'm trying to build a relationship with everybody I come in contact with, whether that's an executive dinner at a high end restaurant, the valet guys. I'm asking their name. I'm making sure they have a little small talk. I'm
Yeah.
very grateful, and I'm making sure they are grateful for what they do. And I think you think about building community or just building relationships. Everybody's like, well, of course, relationships with my customers or, how well am I actually or how effective am I actually being in my job. But I think it's so much more than that. Think about your colleagues. Think about people in different departments that you don't even interact with. I'll speak, I'll stay in my lane for a second from like the sales side. I've worked with tons of salespeople who will step
Mhm.
on team members that support them directly and enable their ability to be successful. They will just step all over them, and they're very demanding, they're disrespectful, and they're unprofessional. Folks don't deserve that. You I feel like those people, if they don't realize the value in building relationships with kind of 360 degrees around them in their work life, they don't realize what they're missing. If you build relationships and you actually know that person, know their interests, if you take the time to listen to how their weekend went, very small things that take an extra 5 minutes on either end of an interaction, incredible what you can get done. You can go
Mhm.
outside of process. You can typically, I'm not all for like, it's not, you're not bribing people, but you're genuinely interested in everybody around you, no matter if they can help you make more money, if they can help you become more successful, it doesn't matter. They're a human being. And everywhere you go, you should have an aura of like, man, this person genuinely cares about anyone they come in contact with. And that attribute to me is infectious. It makes other people want to
Mhm.
be like that, but it also is in a what goes around comes around fashion. How much good karma are you putting out in the world? People are going to want to be around you. There's always that saying that I love where it's, remember them in some of their accomplishments, but I absolutely remember how they made me feel. There's a lot of
Mhm.
executives I admire. I'm a work in pro, but there's a lot of execs that I've been around that they're the busiest people on the planet. And if they give me 10 minutes, I feel like I'm the only person on the planet that lives or that's alive for those 10 minutes. And,
Mhm.
a ton of value in that. So just a quick summary. You have to own your outcomes. You have to move with urgency and you have to build community wherever you go. If you can do those three things, it's really difficult to not be successful because there's a lot of
100%.
different, splinters and ways that you can tangent off of those three things, but they'll all lead back home. And, I think I like to focus on creating a culture more so than driving towards a specific goal that's like a number, like a revenue number, or hey, here's a metric that we're going to target. You need KPIs and metrics. I don't want to downplay that. But if we're focusing on how we show up to work and how we work and how we operate and how we interact with people, I've seen way better outcomes come out of the number. However you get there. I don't care how you do it. I do care how you do it. And I think that's what differentiates us as a company in a market it's a red ocean. There are competitors all over the place. They don't all look exactly like us, but that's what makes it hard. We don't always know who's a competitor and who's not. So how do we
Mhm.
differentiate? We have to make an impact and deliver results, but we also have to have the relationships and be able to make people feel like they're the only one in our world.
Yeah, 100%. I think that one of the most important things in a company is culture, because culture really makes or breaks a company. I mean, like, when your company has bad culture, it seems like your sales reps, your whatever position or staff you have, they don't do the 3 that you just listed. They have no urgency. When it's 4:59 on a Friday, they leave it till Monday, right? Or even if it's on a Wednesday, they leave it for Thursday. They don't bother. They don't bother to make the relationship with the client feel personal, right? They don't tend to always treat that person like, because realistically, that person is the reason why you have a job. They're the reason why you get a paycheck every Friday. So you should be grateful toward that person. That person is like a friend. It's your best friend. It's the reason why you get paid. And I think that urgency is so important because I come from a background, the insurance background. And one of the things that our clients always appreciated is when they called during like the first 2 rings, we picked up the phone and we greeted them and they felt like it was personalized and unique. You know what I mean? And I think that what separated them from, say they got a better rate from a different insurance company and were saving a bunch of money, they still said, "Hey, we wanna stay with these guys because they're always on the phone. They always make our conversations feel personalized, like they want our business. So I think that's so important. Ryan, what do you say typically goes into like making sure your company has the best culture possible? And what would you say to a company that only cares about KPIs and only cares about hitting revenue goals and quarterly goals and doesn't really care about culture or proper training of staff, etc.
Mhm. It's a great question. I think this is one of the most highly debated topics out there, and there's lots of schools of thought. A lot of them end up similar. Typically, where I end up on building culture is that it's not, I think in the oldest sense, I think this has become a little bit more mainstream, but early on in my career, I was always told, well, culture is a set of shared values that a company has. And what I've known to be true in my experience is that it's not a shared list of values, it's a shared set of
Mhm,
behaviors. So, number one is that whatever the culture you want to build is, the leaders have to exhibit it. They have to lead by example because I think it's very easy for a CEO to sit on an all hands meeting and say, here are the core values of the company. And here's what I expect of every single person that works in this company. But if that person doesn't turn around and live those by example, they're just, if they're lucky, they're words on a wall. If they're, lucky, it's a sheet that they all printed out or wrote up in an email. And so to me, you have to decide what are the most important things. And then everybody on the leadership team has to agree and has to exhibit those qualities and the
mhm,
behaviors. Um, I think there's I'm still trying to build this. It's why I hesitate because there's always things to do or ways to improve here. It's like when Ryan would always, you can never be too good of a ball handler. Your culture can
mhm.
never be too good, or it's never arrived, or it's never done. It's kind of like this living
Yeah.
organism, and I think it always speaks to the quality of. That's why I think recruiting and hiring is such a big piece of it. If you even think about like college athletics and recruiting. Um, you can get the best players in the world or in the NIL era that we live in. You can have the highest paid roster in college basketball or college football or something.
Mhm.
If you don't have the personalities that mesh well together, you don't have the right character in each individual that you bring in, it has a possibility of disaster, no matter how good and how athletic, that team. So I think a
Mhm.
lot of what we do that goes well into our hiring practices. And because we're not looking for people to fit into our culture, I am most often looking for somebody that's a culture add. I want them to bring a new element. I want them to bring something outside, new blood, new ideas, new perspective, new energy,
Mhm.
where I think we may be lacking. I'm not just trying to backfill a role. I'm trying to, we definitely want somebody that's going to come in and fulfill the responsibilities we need for the
100%.
jobs that we need to be done. But I'll tell you what, like if I'm usually bringing them in because I am juiced and fired up about who they are, how they operate. I'm like, man, I love their energy. I want them in here with the team.
Yeah.
So I think those types of things are super important, and I want to characterize it that way because I think every company is very different. You have different set of goals. Some of them is like, hey, I want to become $1 billion company, and I want people that are goal oriented and money motivated and all these types of things. That's okay. It's a company. Not everybody has to go work for you. Um, think it's important, whatever the culture you're trying to set and trying to build, your leadership team must exhibit the behaviors that you want to drive in the rest of the company. And then you have to hire for culture ads. You have to continue to build and continue to grow the types of people that you want. And so,
Mhm.
I think it's really important. We spend a lot of time develop when your leaders are lead by example. They can roll their sleeves up, not afraid to do the grunt work. Like I'm not afraid to cold call for an hour. Honestly, that's a lot of the coaching that I do is cold calling with a sales rep and
Mhm.
just reviewing what happens. And then, I'm not the king of cold calling. I get the phone, I get hung up on plenty. People that yell at me and say, "How'd you get this number?" And, I'm on the do not call list and all this. And, sometimes that's even more helpful is when, you think is a leader and you look up to,
Mhm.
you're like, man, they just seem like they got it all figured out. And then you see them fail. And you're like, oh, okay. Kind of like, I don't know if you ever watched the Players Championship at Sawgrass in golf, but when the pros hit it in the water, makes me feel really good. I'm like, okay, like they're great, but they're human, so it's okay. So
Yeah.
I mess up too. I just got to get back on the
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's something, like, about seeing somebody because we all have, like, role models, and we all have mentors and people that we see in a light like these guys have it all together. Like this guy is just a pro. Like, how does he do what he does? And then when you see him, like in your case, get on the phone and make calls, right? Just how you're doing it, and he gets those same reactions of never call me again, put me on do not call list, and hang up on. I think it's like it gives you like an ease of like, okay, like I'm not that bad. I just need to put in reps and keep trying and keep being consistent. It puts you in a much better headspace. I'm speaking from experience because I've been that guy that has been on like both sides of it. The guy that's looking like, okay, like I must be terrible at this. I keep getting hung up on. I keep failing. Like there's no way that this guy, it, if he got on the phone, he would get the same reactions. Right? And it has happened, and I'm like, "Okay, maybe I'm not that bad." And then I've been the guy that's, somebody that I'm training is like, "How do you do it? Like, how are you able to make sales? How are you able to do it?" And I get on they watch me get on the phone, and they're like, "Yeah, I got that same lady too." So I think it's like beautiful to see that. And I mean, I think for the audience to understand more of you, I think we gotta go back to, you know what I mean, your all your years that you spent in technology sales. I mean, you've kind of been around with some big names and you've been in technology sales for quite a while. What pulled you exactly into this world and led you to your current position at CenterGrid?
good question. Sometimes it's embarrassing to say, but I think I'm old enough and I care less, a lot less about image and things like that now. But I was very lucky to get into technology. I was in college grad. I needed a job. I didn't know where to find one. I think through a couple people that my dad knew just got me an entry level sales job. I think up for an interview, and it was just like, yeah, we're going to hire a bunch of these, and some of them are going to work, and some of them aren't. And so it was just complete luck that landed me in technology specifically. But it's it's where I think I'm very passionate about I guess teaching and educating young professionals
Mhm.
that, that are they're used to listening to podcasts like you have to work and live your passion. And I don't think there's anything
Mm,
with that. But at the same time, like I started out telecom industry. I didn't wake up saying like I can't wait to sell phone and internet today. I'm so passionate about like telecommunications and how boards work and internet bandwidth and fiber connectivity, all these things like that. That is like the least motivating thing about what I did for 12 or 13 years. It had everything to do with the game, and that was the people that I worked with, and what was the goal, and what was the job, and I think I loved the idea of the fact that technology was always changing and it was always moving forward. And so I didn't ever feel like I
mhm,
was continuously doing the same thing year in, year out. The luckiest part about where I landed at, kind of a regional telco here in Cincinnati, it used to be called Cincinnati Bell, called Alta Fiber now, great company, was that the people I was surrounded by were just unbelievable. I was a 22-year-old, screw off that, was just missed college, wasn't really sure they wanted to grow up. And I'm like,
mhm,
I admire now how many like young 20 somethings that are focused and driven and come out of school or don't go to school and are building their careers and are just lighting the world on fire. I wish I probably blew through trying to figure myself out. So, um, the technology piece though was I think helpful in keeping me coming back because it always kept me on my toes, but it could have been anything. We could have been an accountant firm, or we could have been, any other SaaS company, or I could have been working for a lumber yard, or it didn't matter. It was the fact that I had so many great people surrounding me. Um, I invested enough in some relationships to people thought I was, a good enough person and I had potential. Thankfully, I think maybe, I fared a little bit in those early years, but I think, having some folks take an interest in me and convince me that I was worth something, and that if I put my mind to it and I put in the time and the effort, there was a future for me in that industry. It didn't have to be at that company. And I think what I found is that, I'm always very intrigued by people's career paths also. Um, and the biggest key learning that I took out of like my journey and career pathing, at least to this point, was that if the company has a career path laid out, that's not what you want to follow. That's for the people that aren't quite as driven and are the ones that, are just gonna like kind of point and be like, well, the deck's stacked against me, or, somebody's out to get me, or no matter, you got to have like a path for people to follow. And if you need your hand held, it's not that you can't get where you want to go, but it's probably going to take a lot longer. You're much better off trying new things. It doesn't mean, hey, you have to decide exactly what you're going to do for the next 25 years, but raising your hand and saying, hey, I'm kind of interested in this piece of the business. I don't know a whole lot about it. You seem like you've been here a while, and I kind of admire the way you go about your role. Can we grab coffee and learn a little bit more
Okay.
about kind of what your team does? I'm not sure. Maybe I might want to work for you down the road, or something like that. And I think I did that probably 5 or 6 times with different pieces of the business. Ended up realizing that I still really enjoyed sales, but I think following that curiosity, but also raising my hand when I knew that I wanted to learn more about something or wanted to explore something. It shows some initiative, and I think desired trait that a lot of leaders are looking for. So if they're like, I want that person on my team, because they don't wait to be told what to do. They or they figure out what needs to be done and they go do it. And then if they have questions, help. Um, what I found as I continued to chase and pull on that thread was that I love the idea of sales and solving problems for customers and building relationships. But at the end of the day, it kind of felt a little hollow for me. Not to say I don't have any problem with anybody. It's an individual contributor, especially in the sales game. I don't at all. I respect that what they do. For me, I challenged that, and there was a gap I was trying to fill, and I found it in leadership. I had so much fun developing and coaching people, so that they could achieve their goals, seeing them succeed. Because I still got plenty of time meeting clients. I was in front of customers, so I was still doing that. But then I had this team of 7 or 8 people that were trying to get from where they were at in their career to the next phase of their career. And man, was that rewarding. And so that kind of landed me in leadership in the tech space. Was still the same company. And then a couple years later, I ended up at a company called CenterGrid, where I'm at now. And I think again, raising my hand and saying, I want more responsibility. I want to learn more about the business side of things.
Mhm.
I want to have a hand in the direction of the company. I want to learn more about balance sheets and P&L. And I want that challenge of, having to deliver on forecasts to a board and all those types of things. And it really has kind of just played itself out. And I think I owe it to a combination of being coachable and curious, learning from a very, very accomplished, esteemed group of people that have been very good to
Okay.
me, but then continuing to just raise my hand and take on more as opportunities come by. So it honestly, the more that you're doing that, you'll find that the opportunities will land in your lap because people know what you're after. They're like, oh, well, I know like Deangelo kind of wants to go this route with his career. and I really like him, and he's really putting in the time, and he's staying. We get together once every other month, coffee, and it's just a quick check in, career path, question, answer, mentor session. But man, I have an opportunity, and it's not even normal role on my team. We're actually going to create a position. I don't think anybody could do it better than Deangelo. So I think it is kind of a continuous progression that you're always working on.
Yeah.
Because me right now, like this, I don't think I'll be the VP of sales at CenterGrid for the rest of my life. I got a lot of years in front of me. I'd love to be at CenterGrid for a long time. I just you have no idea between the conversations that you have with the people you come in contact with, building community wherever you go, right?
Mhm.
You have no idea what those people might need help with. They might think of you for. Sometimes it's a client. Hey, I have a new client, a referral that I want to send your way. Sometimes it's, hey, I have a challenge in my business, and I think you could be the person that solves that challenge. I want you to come take on this role, and you never know. It's money, more responsibility. You're really excited, about the people you would get to work with, who you would work for, the mission the company has. There's a lot of those types of things. You just never know. So, I think the saying that I heard recently that really resonated with me that I love is that you're always on stage. So every single day that you're out, not even just at work, when you're on the weekends, when I'm at my kids' baseball games, you're always on stage. You never know who you're going to meet. That might be an opt to better yourself, better your career, or vice versa. You can better them personally or professionally. That's valuable.
I think there's a lot to unpack there. One of the things that resonated with me is that you talked about at the beginning, some young guys watching podcasts, but they're not wanna do the reps, how you have to do the reps to get better. You know what I mean? You weren't excited to go and sell, some of the tech that you had to sell, but you went and you did it anyways. I think especially my generation, the younger generation, we have a problem where we sit back and we watch and we're laid back. We want to keep consuming and not doing, where it's doing that actually moves the needle. And another thing is that closed mouths don't get fed in the way of if you're continuously outspoken of where you want to be and what you want to do, and you're trying to advance in a company and grow, you got to make that known, and a lot of people, they don't do this. And I'm not gonna say it's easy to move up to a company, but all it really takes is for you to open your mouth and show up consistently and try your hardest. That's really all it is. And I love, like, how you said that, you know what I mean, every day, like, you're on what was it? You're on
Each stage.
stage, right? Because you really are. You never know who you're gonna meet out there. You never know who you're gonna to meet in the lobby of your workplace. You never know who you're gonna meet in your boss's office. It could be his boss's boss's boss, right? So you never know who you're gonna meet at the store, right? So you really are always on stage, and for you to carry a attitude of, like, just, like, positivity and always looking to grow and always willing to conversate with everybody, I think it's gonna take you a very long way. Now, Ryan, your title of VP of business, you're responsible of CenterGrid's go-to-market strategy, correct? What is your guys' current go-to-market, and what would you say separates you from your guys' competitors?
Yep, there's a lot of things that you could talk about here. I think kind of tactically, we have, a hybrid approach with I think you would find that most businesses have a portion of their strategy that is general, like traditional marketing,
Mhm,
sponsorships, ads, those types of things, emails, all that. But where I spend my time, with the team and focusing, making sure that we have coverage is in there's never a substitute for cold prospecting. Fanatical prospecting probably 15 years ago, Jeb Blunt, and I mean it. Looking back now, it seems like a lot of the messages out of there is to me, but man, did it change the way that I approach everything for me. And I think till the day I die, I don't care what my role is, I'll be making cold calls to people I don't know,
mhm.
and I'll be just fine with that. But there's a combination of cold prospecting that has to be a daily practice. It's kind of like going to the gym. Uh, I think try to get we try to get our workouts in, before 10 a.m. every single day because everybody in the day can get away from you. So if you're saving it for the afternoon, there's a good chance you're going to skip it because there's a lot of other important things that you have to do. So there's a portion of our GTM that's focused on cold outreach, whether that's cold calls and voicemails, emails, LinkedIn, um, and then I would say then the portion that's traditional marketing, sponsorships and ad spend. But then where I think we're most effective is in live events. We're
Mhm.
heavily present in some local organizations and I'm not just talking like chambers of commerce. You have to industry you're in and where do all your clients live or where they for us we're lucky in the Southwest Ohio region. We've got quite a few IT specific organizations that do a fantastic job. They have tons of programming outside of just happy hours and an annual awards dinner, tons of workshops, um, tons of panels, and even leadership training programs that are a little bit more IT focused. So it's top tier, and we spend a lot of time building relationships with the organizations themselves, but also being present at as many of the events as we can, so that not just so we can, we're not just aiming to pick off clients. I think we're
Mhm.
genuinely interested in relationships with anybody. I build relationships with at these
Yeah.
events. We're really trying to learn what's going on in the market and what's the voice of the customer. You've got so many
Mhm.
salespeople. I heard recently somebody said, I know a million salespeople just dying to find a problem to solve. And I think that's such a backwards thing. Hey, we can solve these problems. Let's go find the people with these problems. When in
Mhm.
reality, the market's always changing. The economy is always changing. Technology is always changing. You have to be talking to the customers. You have to be listening to them. Their priority list is always shifting too. It's a very dynamic thing, and you have to be adjusting and being able to deliver in ways to solve the problems that are important to them. And I
Mhm.
think the best way to do that is just look to build genuine relationships, not saying like, "Hey, Deangelo, I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you. I work for CenterGrid. We're a cloud company. Hey, do you have workloads in Azure or AWS?" Like, I'm not diving in. Hopefully, if we meet enough times and we get to know each other well enough, if you have a cloud challenge, if I've done my job right, you would likely ask me maybe about that. Uh, so there's always definitely an end goal of, increasing revenue, finding clients there, but I do think it fuels our marketing engine. All of our content comes from these conversations. I think
Mm.
if you go on Google or ChatGPT and try to search trends, it can get you directionally where you need to go from a messaging standpoint, but there's no substitute for specific examples. Conversation 3 days ago with a CIO at a conference, and he said, everybody's talking about X problem, but I could care less about that. It's not a problem, but it's really not the crux of the problem. We're treating a symptom, not the disease. The real problem is like my IT's relationship with the business. We're not
Mhm.
communicating and understanding our audience well enough to be able to drive home our agenda to help move the business forward. That's the
Mhm.
problem. The SaaS tools or the AI tools, those can help some of it, but I've got to solve this before I even care about any of these. And I think
Mhm.
so many people miss the boat there. And I'm, again, I've said it a few times, and hopefully everybody understands I'm not on a high horse here. Um, I I do care about getting better every day and continuing to learn. And that includes not trying to be the know it all in every cloud conversation or IT conversation. I genuinely just want to know what's going on and what are people trying to solve for. If they have no idea to solve for it, it's more fun because then I just get to like sit there and think about, man, can we come up with a way to help them with this? Or do we know somebody that could help? But that is a very long winded way of kind of giving you a sense of what our go-to-market strategy is. There is like we have like it all documented in a core strategy written out. But I do think element that fuels the rest of the engine is the live connectivity with the people in the industry, whether it's partners, competitors, customers.
Yeah, I have to agree because I think that there's no better way than being able to directly get in the face of your market and speak to them. Like, if you wanna learn exactly the problems that your market has, it's not looking it up on Google or looking it up on ChatGPT, it's just going to them face to face and asking, "Hey," you know what I mean? "What problems do you guys have?" But not even just trying to find pain points like you said, just generally getting to know them, generally talking to them, generally understanding who they are and what their company does. I think that's huge. What would you say goes into building good relationships? Because there's a lot of MSPs or a lot of IT service companies or cloud companies that go to these conferences or like go to luncheons, go to all these different meetings, and they it doesn't work out for them at all. They get really nothing from it.
Mhm. It's it's definitely more of an art, than it is a science for me. I've always felt because what I think is very important is your genuine interest, and I think I've said that in a couple times so far in this discussion. But I think the other element that's paramount is you have to be yourself. There's
Mhm,
You go to a networking event or you go to an annual dinner, whatever, an awards banquet, so many people, and you're like, there's plenty of them. You're like, man, they were fantastic. I really like them. And it goes back to like, how did they make you feel? Did they make you feel like you were somebody that mattered? Like they were genuinely like, gave you their full attention and they weren't looking around the room for who else they could talk to that's more interesting than you, like those types of things? Or are they like super conscious and trying to be somebody they think they're supposed to be instead of being themselves? And so that's a part of like, that's a personal growth thing.
mhm,
Able to build relationships is a skill that you can develop, but it's easiest when it's natural. And it's natural when you're being yourself, but you're also interested in the other person. Um, there's always kind of the stigma of like, when you're building relationships with potential customers, they're a means to your end, like from building this relationship. But the
mhm,
best ones end up being the ones that like you actually enjoy because you light up when you see them, and it's not because they have the highest wallet share for you to grab from a competitor. It's because you love seeing that person. You're like, oh my god, half the things that come out of your mouth are about, oh, how did the tournament game go over the weekend? I didn't catch the
mhm,
score. Did you guys win? And, you end up talking for a half hour about personal life things, and then maybe some event that was going on at work that was kind of funny story from work. And then you spend 5 to 10 minutes on the real, a real technology focused problem, or, something that's a little bit more work related. I don't have the silver bullet, D'Angelo, but I do think if you have
mhm,
genuine interest in the other person and not just because you want their business, and then also you are the most authentic version of yourself, you shouldn't have a problem building relationships.
mhm. Now, I wanna tie this into because we spoke about this last time in past conversations, and I think what you said about this was great. You talked about learning from others and mentorship and how that was important for your growth and ultimately why you're in the position where you're at right now. Can you tell us about how important learning from others is? Just like even like learning from the guy at the store, you know what I mean, about something that's so small, or finding mentors that are levels ahead of you that you're looking to learn from and gain from.
This is really important, because I've had this conversation a decent amount, and I think there's definitely like this thought process that, hey, I need to find my mentor, or I need a mentor, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think, if you have a single person that you go to for almost everything, um, and you trust them and it really helps develop you, and you're happy with that relationship, that's sweet. Like, go all day on that. To me, as many mentors as I can find. And some of them are distant, some of them are extremely close, some of them are short term, some are long term. And I think that's like the each of those are a relationship in, as if you're the mentee seeking a mentor, you are the one that drives all of it. You're not, typically the mentor instantly come back to you like, "Hey, we haven't got together in a while. Let's meet for lunch and see how you're doing." Not that they don't care, but that's not like it's not their development. It depends on, or it all comes down to you being the driver and the one that keeps the conversation going, keeps the relationship going. So I've got mentors in my faith. I've got mentors in that I look up to and that I ask lots of questions about being a good father. I've got sales mentors, I've got finance mentors, I've got branding and marketing mentors, and I've got some of them that are closer to my inner circle are ones that have a lot of those things. They are
Mhm,
great fathers. They're God fearing men just like me, and they are very successful and goal oriented humans that have had a great business career, and I learn a lot from them.
mhm,
Um, so I do think it's important to call out that like it can be what to be, but it is important people that you admire,
mhm,
reach out to them. I connect with people randomly on LinkedIn because of an article that they wrote that inspired me. I kind of want to meet you. I have a few questions. Would love to riff on this topic that you talked about, and I'm mostly hoping to learn from them. But it's bilateral. Like sometimes they're like curious why it resonated with me, and that helps them learn something, and then
yeah,
then it creates more of a peer to peer relationship. But I
yeah,
think similarly to career pathing, it's a big piece of career pathing. You have to reach out to people that are doing it better than you or ahead or
mhm,
further down the road in their career on the path you want to follow or some of the path you follow, and you've got to seek their guidance.
yeah. I think and I 100% agree with you. I'm a big believer, I would say, in that you can learn something from almost anybody. Like, you could learn something from, you know what I mean, even the homeless guy, you know what I mean, on the corner of the street, right? Will you learn about business and finance? No. But you can learn, you know, maybe of why he got there and what not to do to be like that, you know what I mean, in the next coming years, you know what I mean? So you could learn something from almost everybody, and I think those that enjoy life, I would say, and that are kind of the smartest are always the ones that look to continue to learn and continue to not be ignorant and just wanna speak with everybody. I think that was, like, a big thing this year or 2025, I should say, that I found, like, mentorship is like it's like a cheat code almost to life, because if you're able to find somebody or a group of people that are on a, like, a different higher level than you, it's like you don't have to make so much mistakes. You don't have to figure everything out yourself. You get somebody there that's already done it, that's already kinda been through, like, the woodworks and the stress, and is able to almost, like, fast track you onto a new level, and it's just insane about how many people don't take advantage of that in life, you know? They don't look for like, if I'm going to do a new activity, my first thing is, okay, is how do I surround myself with people that are way better than me, right? And how do I get them to wanna talk to me to learn from them? And I think that's, like, what everybody should do when they get into a new space or something new. Now, Ryan, to kinda close us off here, what is one or two things that you would say to anybody watching this that wants to either be in your position, and on the flip note, what makes CenterGrid so good to work with?
Hit me with that. What was the first one again?
So what's one thing that you would tell someone that wants to be in your position?
Got it. Good question. I'm thinking. I want to be very thoughtful and mindful of how I answer this question. So, in order to get to my position, for one, I wouldn't focus so much on getting to a certain position. It's okay to have dreams of being a CEO. Like I'd like to lead a company as well. I'm at the VP level now. Grateful to be in this role. The titles you'll find become a little bit more irrelevant the more advanced you get in your career. I had a mentor tell me one time this was more about money. He was like, "You think you want the lake house until you have the money to afford the lake house, and you realize like, I'm all right. Like I don't need that." So sometimes you need experience for yourself to actually know what I mean when they say things like that. Um,
Mhm,
but but I do think if you raise your hand in on trail, you can get wherever you want to go because bump into enough people that are going to help you out along the way because if you're the one that has the initiative and is driving the enthusiasm towards something, it's infectious. Like people want that person around. You will get where
mhm,
you're trying to go and they'll help you figure out what you actually want. Think you want one thing and you might meet somebody that's like, "Okay, cool. Like, let me show you what that looks like." And you're like, "Yeah, that kind of actually sounds awful." Like, no, you're going to hate that. You're actually probably a better fit in this direction. So that's, I think blazing your own trail is my best advice to get to a position that, that you're striving or, yeah, that you're striving for. Now, what makes CenterGrid such a great place to work? Um, oof, man, I do it's tough. Most people will say the quality of the human beings in our company. Take the business out of it. It's just like somebody is in a car accident, and you'll see everybody flock to that person and say, "Hey, hopefully everything's okay. I'm sure it's a tough time for you." We're
mhm,
picking up the slack. Or if somebody loses a loved one, it's like, "Hey,
mhm,
get the heck out of here. I don't want to hear from you. You call us if you need anything. We got the day to day. Don't worry about
mhm,
it." And they do the same thing with customers. Hey, they're like, "Hey, I know I said I would get this for you, or I know, this was really out of scope, but here's kind of the situation I'm in." And our people will just pick up the slack and say, it's just like an hour of work. I'll just do it. It's not a big deal." And I think we hang our hat on that because there is a lot of, protection and for good reason in the MSP space. Hey, this is out of scope because that's where you just crush your margins. It's tough to be profitable if you just do everything for everybody.
mhm,
But I think we do try to be judicious about that and a little flexible so that, um, as customers run into problems and, they have a challenge to get over and it's like they don't have the expertise to solve their own problems. So to me, this whole ordeal, instead of us going through the effort of putting in an SOW together for a small project for like 2 hours of work, like time and materials, like we're not doing that. We're just going to do it and move on. And I think that it just continuously points back to the character of the people that we have reason to work with CenterGrid as a client. It's a great reason to come and work here. So, and I mean, I've only been here about 2 years, so we're just getting started, Deangelo.
and I look forward to, seeing your growth. Hopefully, in about a couple years here, or maybe in a short year, I'll be seeing you as a CEO of CenterGrid. So, Ryan, where could the viewers see you if they want to keep up with you?
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I love having interactions and chatting with people on LinkedIn. And then even if we take those merge offline to, Zoom calls or in person, love networking that way. And also check us out. We're at centergrid.com and cgvirtualstudio.com are two different websites where you can find us. So hope to connect with anybody who wants to catch up.
Awesome. Well, there you guys go. See you guys in the next episode. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, D'Angelo.